So we're going to move on to extreme tourism now and look at Antarctica for that. But before that, I want to just look at the reasons why we've seen such a boom in extreme tourism, and particularly two places like Antarctica. Now, one of those is the wilderness, okay, and the spectacular scenery that these locations offer. They offer you an opportunity to see scenery and wildlife that you simply do not get to see anywhere else. And they're untouched. They're so isolated from modern humanity that they haven't been ruined by general tourist activities such as building of hotels and other kind of things that maybe some people say could ruin some of these natural environments. On top of that, people generally just have more time, i.e. more leisure time, more time to take off work, and more money. This means that now things such as going to Antarctica that would have taken quite a long time and would have been very expensive and therefore probably out of most people's reach are now actually becoming much more viable activities. On top of that, it's actually now not as extreme as it used to be. Now if you want to go to Antarctica, you've got nice cruise ships that can take you there in 5-star luxury. You can get a plane to the southern tip of South America and then take on a really high quality cruise ship around Antarctica. And finally, one of the other reasons I'm talking about is just simple boredom. People came bored of British holidays, and therefore we saw an increase in sort of package holidays and their popularity, and people going to Spain and so on. And then people become bored of those activities and those holidays now, and are looking for something a bit different. So now let's look at our case study specifically of Antarctica, and look at really how extreme tourism is being managed, because obviously tourism to these environments is going to have a significant impact. So we start off with Antarctica here. Okay, a little nice side point linking to your coastal unit, sea level rise. We're very concerned about Antarctic ice melting because it's actually sitting on a land mass. So any ice melt from that will add to sea level rise. Arctic ice is floating on the sea, so it's already displaced that water, it's already pushed it up. So we're actually not so concerned by Arctic ice melting as we are by Antarctic ice melting. So let's start off with the management. The first thing is I want to look at a global strategy. Okay, and that global strategy is the Antarctic Treaty. The Antarctic Treaty is a globally recognised treaty signed up to by over 47 different countries. Those countries have agreed to protect Antarctica and not to exploit it for their own gain, so to preserve its natural environment. That is a really important sort of part of the management. On top of that, it's been designated as a site-specific scientific interest. So again, it's protected by law from exploitation. But they still want tourists to go there. They still want to have the financial gains of tourists visiting. So what do they do to try and limit that? Now, firstly, obviously you have to take a boat to Antarctica. So what they've done to try and reduce the number of tourists, okay, to limit the amount of tourists who can get there, any boat that visits Antarctica, and cruise ships and so on, have a maximum size of 500 people. This means that the number of visitors, number of tourists visiting Antarctica is limited. This reduces or limits the amount of damage. At any one time, actually on Antarctica, you can only have 100 people from that ship. So again, that limits the amount of damage that can be done. You limit the number of tourists, you limit the amount of damage that is done. Now, on top of that, those 100 people, okay, must go with a guide. And that guide, the ratio to that is 1 guide to 20 visitors as a maximum. That guide can obviously educate people on how to best preserve the environment, how not to disturb any of the wildlife that they come across, and at the same time, obviously, they can also enforce any laws if anybody does start to break them, because remember, it is a site of specific scientific interest. Another nice idea, again, to try and reduce the disturbance of the wildlife, is that any visitor to Antarctica must stay a minimum of 5 metres away from any wildlife that they want to see. Okay, so that limits any disturbance, because there was concerns about obviously photographers going there and the large noise of their clickers and the shutters on their cameras disturbing the wildlife, so they have to keep their distance to a minimum of 5 metres. And any waste, any rubbish, any kind of litter or anything like that that is taken by the ships or by the visitors to Antarctica onto the Antarctica, or if it stays on the ships, must also go back with it, so that none of that is left behind. And one final management strategy is the opening of research stations. For example, the British Antarctic Research Station. They actually open their doors to tourists. So tourists can go there and they can be educated and they can learn about the importance of Antarctica as an ecosystem and its global importance, and they can start to learn about how they can best help look after it and how not to damage it. So there's quite a large number of different ways that Antarctica can be managed. It's really important to try and get some of these numbers in to the exam question.